President Obama's foreign policy coming under fire, this time due to an about-face on Afghanistan that happened yesterday. Now saying that the U.S. troops will be staying there beyond the end of his term in office, 5,500 of them at least. Here is a look at the president's own words on Afghanistan and our history there in his term. Watch this.
Make no mistake, we do not want to keep our troops in Afghanistan. I have determined that it is in our vital national interest to send an additional 30,000 U.S. troops to Afghanistan. Starting next month, we will be able to remove 10,000 of our troops from Afghanistan by the end of this year, and we will bring home a total of 33,000 troops by next summer. This drawdown will continue, and by the end of next year, our war in Afghanistan will be over. At the beginning of 2015, we will have approximately 9,800 U.S. service members in different parts of the country. 1 year later, by the end of 2016, our military will draw down to a normal embassy presence in Kabul with a security assistance component.
Well, we now know that that is not to be. Based on the president's own comments yesterday, he said that because of conditions on the ground there, it is necessary to keep at least 5,500 troops in place till the end of his term. And then whoever is the next president will have to take on what's going on in Afghanistan. And here's a man who would like to be that person. Senator Marco Rubio of Florida is the Republican presidential candidate. Senator, welcome. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning.
This is a serious situation going on the ground in Afghanistan. You've got ISIS is building a presence there. You have al-Qaeda making a resurgence there. You have the Taliban making a resurgence there. So our people are going to be in a very, very dangerous, violent situation there.
Well, I'm glad he stopped the drawdown, but it's not a sufficient number. In fact, here's what people need to understand. There reaches a point where the numbers get so low that the only thing they are able to do is spend all day defending themselves. That's the issue with the numbers. It's not that it's a magical number, it's that the number itself determines whether or not we have enough people there to defend ourselves first, but also to conduct operations. Here's the other point. All those speeches you just outlined, the Taliban saw the same message, and so did other radicals like al-Qaeda and now ISIS. And that's why they waited and they were biding their time. And as a result, with each reduction in American troops, you saw more and more aggressive actions on their part. They are basically stepping into the vacuums and voids that we're leaving behind. Here's what's clear. The Afghan national forces still do not have the capability to control the country and fight off these insurgents. And as a result, if the numbers get too low, Afghanistan could collapse and it could become the next Syria, the next prime operational space for ISIS, which, as you correctly pointed out, is growing its presence there, obviously for the Taliban, and ultimately for al-Qaeda as well. These radical groups need operating spaces. They need vacuums. And a collapse of the Afghan government, which is what will happen, without significant support from the United States, will lead to the creation of an additional vacuum in that region of the world.
All right, you know, but a lot of people out there listen to that and they say, you know what, it's not our problem. We can't win this. We've been in Afghanistan. It's the longest war in American history, and we're done with it. And whoever's, you know, sort of accepts this job, this task at hand, which you would like to do, is going to have a lot on their plate. How are you going to convince the American people that that's worth it?
Because it's our problem. Because I'll tell you how you convince them. Show them the magazines that ISIS is now producing. Show them the publications that come out from al-Qaeda. You know what they talk about? They talk about attacking America. In America. They talk about recruiting Americans to join their cause. They talk about how they're going to raise the black flag of ISIS over the White House and how they're going to attack Americans here in the homeland. They talk about how they're going to target servicemen and women in their homes and in their communities for killing and beheadings. They're not simply satisfied with controlling Afghanistan or Syria or Iraq. They want to conquer the world. They initially want to go after our allies. They want to destroy Israel. But ultimately, they want to come after us here in the United States, and they're actively trying to do it now. So if we can ignore them, they're not going to stop ignoring us. This notion that somehow if we leave them alone, they're going to leave us alone just isn't true. They're there today, but they're trying to come here now and will continue to try to come here because they believe it is their calling to conquer the world in the name of their version of radical Islam.
All right. Senator, I want to move you to another topic that is very important right now as well. We just saw what's going on in the streets of Israel. Our reporter was just, you know, getting sort of nudged around out there in a very violent and volatile situation. Here's Josh Earnest, the press secretary at the White House, talking about how they see this situation yesterday in the briefing. Let's play it.
We continue to stress to leaders on both sides the importance of condemning violence and combating incitement. Ultimately, ending this conflict will require both sides making some difficult decisions, some decisions that will require them to exercise some significant political courage.
They're getting a lot of pushback for that. That was from Wednesday, actually.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
But that's their attitude with Israel all the time. They want to be this honest broker between the Palestinians and the Israelis. We're not an honest broker. We are firmly on the side of Israel. At least we should be. They are the only pro-American, free enterprise democracy in the Middle East. We need to be 100% on their side. And number two, we need to be criticizing Abbas and the Palestinian Authority because they're the ones that are inciting violence. I don't hear Netanyahu going around telling people to stab Palestinians, to attack people. On the contrary, Israeli security forces have taken on extraordinary risk to try to bring this down, the level of violence down. It is the Palestinian side that is inciting the violence. It is the Palestinian side that is encouraging and celebrating people who are attacking Israelis and Jews in the region and others. And it is unacceptable. And I wish we had a White House that was clearly on the side of Israel. This is an outrage, quite frankly. It is, in many ways, contributing to the instability in the region and many of the things that we now see.
All right. So from foreign policy, which is a busy place, as we've just discussed, to the election front for a moment here. So how do you feel about the fact that Donald Trump and Ben Carson are dictating the terms of your next debate on October 28th?
Well, look, the fact of the matter is that right now in public polling, they're doing very well, and that gives them some standing to talk to these news outlets about how to do things. Here's the bottom line. I don't worry about it. There's going to be a debate, and I'm going to be there. Do I want it to be 3 hours long? Not necessarily, but I'm prepared for it, especially if it's going to be about important issues. Whatever the debate rules are, as long as they're reasonable, we're going to be there. We look forward to this election's not about me. It's not about whether I want to stand for 3 hours behind a podium or not. This election is about the future of America, and I look forward to the opportunity to have a third chance to debate with my fellow Republicans about who should lead our party into the 2016 election. So as long as the rules are reasonable, we're going to be there.
There's still a lot of them. There may be 8 or 9 of you on the primetime stage for that debate. You know, some of these folks aren't getting much money. You know, to talk about fundraising, do you think it's time for some people on the lower end of that 8 or 9 to get out?
Well, I think people make their own decisions, and ultimately, as long as someone has the poll numbers that justify being them on the stage, as long as they're not running up debt for their campaign, I don't know why they would get out. I don't have a problem with having a vibrant field. You know, the Democrats can't even come up with one good candidate. You saw that debate the other night was embarrassing. On the other hand, we have some strong people running. I think it's going to give us a stronger nominee and ultimately a better chance to win the White House. So I'm not going to worry about the mechanics of it. I'm focused on what we're running on. I'm going to keep telling the American people what I will do if they honor me with the chance to be in the White House. And I'm optimistic about what that's going to be in February and March when people start voting.
All right. We're going to talk to one of those other folks who will likely be on that stage, Rand Paul, coming up in just a few minutes. Senator Marco Rubio, thank you.
Thank you.